find that old VHS. We're diving deep in cheesy flicks. Yeah, we're on a vintage quest. Low reviews but high on laughs. Let's give these films a cheer. The cult classics, flops, and duds. There are topics this year. We're the Ejectables, rolling back the years, celebrating movies that no one else cheers. From backhand twos to epic fails, we say it's all good. We're the Ejectables, yeah, we're misunderstood.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ejectables, the show where movie enthusiasts Bill, Joe, and Ian join forces with a rotating weekly guest to celebrate movies that we feel have been unjustly panned by the critics or sadly forgotten or neglected by the audiences. Our weekly guest this week is Matthew. Matthew, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here with us.
Well, on Facebook, Bill and I are always talking about movies. So I think he threw me out this invitation from that.
Yeah, Bill hates
I'm
movies.
an entertainment lawyer and literary manager. I work with a boutique firm based in Boston, but my clients are all around the country. I myself just sort of recently moved to Dallas. And I'm also a literary manager where I work just with screenwriters and investigative journalists, book authors. I work a lot, mostly with nonfiction, representing life story rights. And I work a lot in true crime, a lot of organized crime.
Oh, wow. That's
and have been getting into podcasts the last few years. So that's been great. And that's how I've sort of been able to stay alive in the business while it's been going through a tough time the last 5 years.
Yeah, I'll say. Oh, well, thank you for joining us. That's
thanks for coming on.
Yeah, true crime is certainly where it's at nowadays.
Yeah, thank God. I remember like about 10 years ago, I used to look down on reality television. And then so much of it came to Boston and I started working in it. And I was like, wow, I love reality television. And then that sort of, I mean, I always liked true crime, but I sort of segued into it more hardcore because it just, that's where the money was. And you have to follow the money. And turns out that's what I like the most too. I mean, my favorite films are usually gangster films or war movies, things that are based on the truth. So.
Do you have a favorite gangster movie?
I mean, just the obvious. I feel bad even saying it, but obviously Goodfellas.
All right. The Untouchables?
Yeah, I put the Untouchables in the top 15,
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Annie?
Yeah, Annie's terrifying.
Yeah.
Annie?
Yeah.
The movie Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good crime drama.
I like Annie. I mean, it was one of my favorite plays growing up. My mother took me to Annie. It was great.
Bill's just always thinking about tomorrow, and I think that's why he mentioned it.
What about State of Grace? That's going to be an ejectable. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just rewatched that about 3 weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
And, it holds up pretty decently, I think.
Has some good slow-mo in bars.
Yeah, and I think it's real to, it wasn't like over dramatic. I think it was kind of real to how those guys really are. Felt more authentic than some of the more glorified or overly action-y gangster movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good cast in that too.
I still like Sleepers. I know people don't like that one. I liked it.
I actually saw that in the movie theater. I remember that.
I did too.
I saw it at the Sherry in Boston.
Yeah, I saw it somewhere in Boston, maybe over at Fresh Pond or something. But yeah. At the time that I saw it, I was disappointed and I was a little bored. But that could be something I should rewatch because I probably would like it more now.
No.
Maybe that's a rewatch.
It was a date movie too. I don't think that's a good date movie.
No, it's not. Especially the raping scenes.
Oh,
which was crazy. Yeah, that's gonna be an ejectable because the critics didn't like that one.
Yeah,
but I think over time it's gotten a little better. Yeah, I think it was too dark for the time, for the era. I'd probably do better now.
And plus, the guy said that I guess he made it up or something.
What?
He said it was a true story. It's completely made up or something like that.
Yeah,
but still a good movie. I don't care.
So, Matthew, we want to get into your pick this week. Can you tell us about it, what you chose, and maybe what it's about, and why you dig it?
Well, I chose Frailty because maybe since all of us watch so many movies and worked in movies, it's hard to find a movie that surprises us anymore.
Yeah.
And I think I can maybe find 3 or 4 movies a year that surprised me, and this was one of those that year that really jumped out at me. And I also really loved the ending. It kind of kept me involved the whole time. I remember being really impressed with Matthew McConaughey at the time, because I don't think he was kind of going into, this might have been one of his more dramatic roles earlier in his career, getting away from all that romance comedy that he was doing. And I thought he was great. I mean, Bill Paxton, he's great in everything he does. And I know he directed this.
Yeah.
And anything with Powers Booth. I mean, I just love Powers Booth. And
we just had
I did, not to get too religious, but I am a Catholic, and I do believe that there are demons out there. And that kind of appealed to me as well, because in a lot of ways, I don't want to say I think that was real, but I could believe it, and I do think that's how I do see demons, as how they saw demons in this movie. So that played a nice role in it as well to me.
Crazy coincidence. I happen to have that movie on in the background right now. What?
So it's always playing in his house.
It is.
Nothing to be worried about. I'm
not religious, so I'm hoping I absorb it a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah, it might rub off on you. Yeah.
In the creepiest way. So what else did you like about it? Was it do you think it was the writing, the direction by Bill Paxton?
I like the screenwriting. I also liked that it was so simple in terms of just locations and the number of actors involved. Coming from from an independent type of production, I was really impressed with it. How few actors they had and how few locations they had, but they kept you really interested. That really impressed me in the script. I thought it was fascinating, and I was trying to research the screenwriter again, and I guess he hasn't done too much since. He's done a couple other movies, but
yeah, he went to our college, so I met him before he sold it. Such a nice guy. Yeah.
Is he our elder or around the same age?
He's a little bit older. I think he's got his master's from Emerson. So
smarty pants.
Yeah,
that's cool, because I just thought it was such an amazing script, and so it's weird how sometimes someone just writes an awesome script and then you don't see him again for a while.
Yeah.
So I hope if he's still out there, I hope he's still banging away and he's got some other ones in him.
This movie didn't do very well, right? Or no, it made its money back.
Yeah, I think it made its money back, and it was Lionsgate first international, big release. I think they picked it up at one of the festivals, maybe Toronto. Okay. I think it was made for like $1 million.
Oh wow!
And with that crew and that acting cast, that's incredible.
Yeah,
I do think it made some money. I think
it was 11 million. I think they made it for 11, and they made about 17 on it.
I thought it was made for like 1. I guess I'm wrong.
That's my pick, which I think you'll see.
Oh, yours. Okay. All right.
Yeah. What did they spend the other 900,000 on? On your pick?
Oh, we'll get to that. So this movie,
rock joke, by the way. I just ripped off Chris.
Oh,
sorry.
Give him credit. That's good. We'll put it in the credits at the end.
And in a lot of ways, I kind of expected a sequel. I did feel like it left it open for a sequel at the end, even though it was so perfectly solved. Or it could even, that's something that, how they're just redoing everything from their libraries, that they could turn that into like a TV series or something. There's a lot they could do with that character and that material and that genre.
I think Paxton is.
Who knows? Is he? That would be great.
No, I'm sorry. I mean, that's too soon. No, he was great. He was great. So that's mean to say, because I hear he's one of the.
He was. I don't even know how old he was then. He always looks like the same age. You know?
Well, this is what I'll say about Bill Paxton and Jeff Goldblum are two of the nicest guys in Hollywood ever. Like they're. Yeah. I have a crazy story. I met Bill Paxton in an elevator, and one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. So it's just crazy that he directed this dark horror thriller. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It means he must have a dark side, because the guy cannot have been nicer.
Yeah. Paxton's on that list of people who, when they die, like Hollywood people who, when they die, you just really, really miss. I mean, it's like, he's up there with like John Candy and James Gandolfini.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just sad. It was really sad when he died young. You know, it was too bad because you knew he had a lot more in him.
For sure. Yeah, like Big Love and stuff. He was so good on that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So this is like, as you know, from my pick, which we'll get into shortly. I'm a big horror fan. So this movie was kind of promoted as a horror movie, kind of dark. And it is definitely a good, tense thriller. It's definitely for a horror fan. I was like, it was kind of horror light for me.
Yeah.
But knowing that going in this time, I could appreciate it more. And I did like it back then. It does feel, to a degree, and maybe because of that horror element, it feels to me that it plays it a bit safe. All the
I agree. I think it's more of a thriller almost, or a mystery to a degree, and that's kind of the angle of. I'm not really a big horror fan, but I appreciate horror fans.
Thank you.
And I know what they're looking for and what they like. So I agree with you a lot on that. You know, it's definitely not a horror film for sure.
Yeah, but certainly horror elements. To me, it felt like The Dead Zone meets Dexter.
Yeah, I could see that.
But slower and without gore. Though there is some definitely tense scenes where it's a little uncomfortable for sure, especially in front of the kids in the film. But Bill, what'd you think of this?
Loved it. When I saw it, that ending was shocking, probably more shocking than The Sixth Sense. And I was talking with my writer friend of mine who's like, dude, that ending is pretty awesome. So I don't super want to ruin it, but there's a big twist ending that makes the entire movie worth it.
Fast forward. Do you want me to get to the end?
Yes, please.
Okay. No.
And I wish Bill was a really great director. Also, I wish he directed more movies. I think the movie was ahead of its time, and wholly original. I think that people were looking for different things back then, and Matthew McConaughey, I think, was on a downward turn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Oh, was it?
Yeah, and so when he did it, he was just like, "Oh, another movie with him." And I think they let Bill direct it because he just did Titanic, right? 1999, maybe.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. It's crazy that he directed this dark, twisted movie when he's one of the nicest guys ever in Hollywood. So I think Lionsgate didn't know what to do with it. I remember seeing a lot of commercials for it. Ian, you always tell me about the shirtless Matthew McConaughey scene when he's on the phone. Love it. I know.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to entice females and people that would like that, but this is not a really female movie.
He's good though. He is good. And what is funny, because you mentioned Bill, what's his name? Powers Booth, who I do generally like, but having just watched this again yesterday, I found that I almost feel he phones it in for this role. And normally I do like him more. But I just felt
I could see that. I could see you saying that. Yeah.
But I do generally like him, from Bill's recent pick.
He's not as good as he was in Tombstone. But maybe he was just trying to play it understated because he didn't want you to know he was the demon. Is that a spoiler?
Oh, spoiler! Beep.
Who was he in Nixon? He was Haig? Was he Haig? He was so good in Nixon.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he was.
But Haig. I also think that there was like a Dallas or a Texas connection because he's from Texas. McConaughey's from Texas.
The screenwriter is from Texas also.
And the screenwriter's from Texas, so maybe that.
He's great in Extreme Prejudice.
Hard to find.
I haven't seen that in a long time.
That'd be a great ejectable, actually.
We're gonna do it. We discussed this.
Was that where he's like a Texas border patrol guy?
Isn't he just like a gangster cowboy essentially?
Okay.
And I think what's his name? The other actor, Nick Nolte, is like the border.
Oh, right.
Is that right?
That would be a good ejectable movie.
Yeah, that's Walter Hill, right?
Yeah, it is Walter Hill. I love that back in this day. Yeah. But Powers Booth, he's good. Just I felt he was a little.
Again, and he just recently died, I think, within like the last 5 years.
Horrible, yeah. It's he was the best. Emerald Forest.
But he was an older dude, so I guess it was time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was good. Anything else that you liked about this film you'd like to share? Anything else you have to say?
I do like, I don't know if it had started maybe in the late 90s, but I did like the cinematography, kind of going with the green there. I did like sort of how they the murders within the garage. and the coloring of that, I thought separated it from everything else.
Yeah.
So that kind of brought me into it from a camera perspective.
It takes place in 79, right?
Well, it starts in 79, right? And I also sort of
Yeah.
love some of the references to 79 too in the beginning. I love how the kids, they love Meatballs. He wants to go see Meatballs. I love Meatballs. And then I think the other brother wanted to go see something else. I forget what it was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I
But,
guess I was reading, you probably read it as well, that initially that was supposed to be Alien they were going to see. But then Bill was like, because of my connection with aliens, let's make that Meatballs. So,
okay.
Now,
Okay.
do you guys think a meatball would be an ejectable? Because someone pitched that to me, and I said it's not an ejectable.
maybe Meatballs 2?
Yeah, there you go. What are you
Meatballs
talking-
could be. I mean, it depends. Like where
That was
it
big.
depends on the age range of your audience. You know, I mean, for the younger people who've never heard of it, maybe
That movie was huge in its day, though. It was
it was.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to get much love like since. You know, I
Because
don't-
it's so low budget. He hobbled that money together. That's why. Yeah.
How about Meatballs 3 with Patrick Dempsey?
You have. I'm waiting for the Criterion collection of that.
Oh, good.
was
Yeah.
there one where like an alien or something came?
Yeah,
involved?
the meatballs too.
And Me Ted, remember? Me Ted. Is he who called the kid Meathead? I don't know. Why do I remember that? That was a goofy movie. So anything else about this, Bill and Matthew?
I think we should move on to your pick.
Oh, my pick is brilliant. So as I said before, I am a fan of horror films. And so this movie came along in 2012, I believe.
What's it called?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's called You're Next. And it is a comedic slasher. So it feels like initially like a kind of lowbrow slasher. And eventually you realize it's more like a 90s Noah Baumbach, Whit Stillman type movie where it's like these, these young, intelligent people who get into this situation. So basically it's about this family that gets together for the parents' 35th anniversary, and one by one they start being killed off. And why does this happen? Don't reveal it here. I guess we could. It's Powers Booth had been doing it the whole time. It's not Powers Booth. But
no, he would never be in a movie like this, Ian.
He might. Well, there's really actually there's no big people in this. And this is, the mumblecore movies like the
Right.
Duplass brothers. This is considered mumble gore.
Okay.
One of the actors in this movie is also the director of the movie Ty West. He directed Pearl and Maxine and X. He plays
What?
the first guy. Yeah, he's the first guy to be
There
shot.
are
with a
there's
arrow.
many directors in it.
What's that?
There's many accomplished directors in this. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's an indie team. They work with each other a lot. They do a lot of, like Pearl and X. They do great movies. And I think this one, if you start watching, you're like, oh, this is kind of junky. You realize it's smarter. It's funnier. It's definitely meant to be tongue in cheek, but the violence is great. Beautifully staged set pieces, very gory, and it's funny. Like, did you stay to the end, Bill? Now, I admit I'm the only horror fan on this show. So it is tough to drag people into watching horror movies. So I know Bill hates most of my picks that are horror.
No, so Matthew, I called up Ian because we needed someone because we were able to do it this Sunday. So thank you.
I was on the spot.
And I said, can you pick something kind of normal that we
You
can
said
find?
pick something hard. Easier to find.
I said, we have a big guest coming, and can you pick something kind of normal? Because he wanted to pick this humanistic vampire movie that
is so good.
And then I go, so he picks this movie, and the whole time I'm like, is this a joke? What we're dealing with here? What is this movie? Looks like it was shot in Scotch tape. I was like, it's not remotely funny. It's horribly acted. I was like, it is terrible beyond belief. Now, I don't like saying bad things about movies because I've worked on some movies that got bad reviews, but holy shit, Ian, what the fuck was this?
I was on a layover. Now, I will admit, I do love this movie. I went to see it because it got great reviews. In the horror world, people love it, but I think a lot of people don't know it. So it did make it was shot for $1 million and it made its money back. So
no, I'm going to give you some credit. You don't have to defend it as much. I mean, at the beginning, I just thought that it was so slow.
Yeah.
That usually I felt like it was a good 20-25 minutes in before
it takes off, and it feels cheap at first. You're like,
it does real cheap.
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my God, this is hard. I thought the directing was off. I thought the sets were off. I thought the acting was off. I thought everything was off. Like, and
because it was.
If I had been an acquisitions person, I probably would have like just stopped watching it. But it did but I knew it was a cult film. I knew it had, some success.
Yeah.
And I knew it probably was going to go somewhere. I'm like, they can't be this bad. And it did. It recovered. And then and I do think it's rewatchable. Obviously I think I went in maybe a little too harsh on it too.
I think Bill did too. He's like, what Ian? What Ian thinks?
Yeah, I think I needed to maybe go in a little more light-minded to deal, because I did appreciate where they were trying to go with the dialogue and not make it too serious.
It's just fun. It's just a good time. If you enjoy seeing some well choreographed gore and just some snappy dialogue, that's, I don't know.
And the first kill really got me into it. I was like, okay, here we go. That's kind of funny. I was like, now, and it got much better from there. And I did like the twist. I did like sort of the reasoning behind it, even though I thought they revealed that a little too early. I just think the pacing was off in this. If they could have polished that script for sure, I think, and made it even better.
Sure, it could have been tightened a bit for sure.
Yeah, because the ending was great too, but it just felt rushed.
It's so funny. The end's so good. Yeah, and then the title comes up.
Yeah,
I think. I think this is a movie where I'm like, oh, like you, I started like, I don't know, this feels kind of low budget, because I'm not really into like crappy low budget horror movies. And then as it just got better and better and better, by the end, I'm like, oh my God, that was so fun.
Yeah, and I also was like, these people probably had so much fun making this movie.
Totally, you can tell they're all friends.
Not the audience, not
the non-horror liking audience may not enjoy it.
Not the co-hosts of the Ejectables, that's for sure.
Who don't like horror movies?
I like horror movies. I just don't like ones that look like they're shot in Scotch tape.
Wait, name one you like. Come on,
Baby.
That's a cute classic.
All right, thank you.
All right, okay, I respect that. Okay, so
9 to 5. 9 to 5.
Yeah, 9 to 5 was scary when Dabney Coleman got roped up in the ceiling with the chains. Yeah.
No, and in its defense, I think because nobody is in it from at least like a viewer standpoint in terms of big names.
Yeah.
That you kind of forget that nobody's in it once you get into it. When it first starts, you're like, wow, this is clearly nobody is in this.
Yeah, there's no one And this young woman you just showed on the screen, her name is Sharni Vinson. I haven't seen her before that. I didn't see her after that. And she is a great final girl, which is that term they use for the one woman that survives in horror movies. And she's so good. She's
I don't know. Can we reveal any spoilers?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Does she survive? I don't know. That's what I don't know.
It seems like she kind of gets roped into being blamed for all the murder. Even the cop, which is so good.
I mean, she was living, but I don't know if she's going to die from that wound or not.
I think he got her in the shoulder. I think she survives.
Okay.
And then she gets pinned for all the violence.
Right. Okay.
Even the cop, which is that set up with the axe. Yeah. But see it is, if you enjoy a fun slasher with a little bit of comedy, see it. If you don't like horror movies,
I would recommend it for horror fans for sure. But horror fans are just so different,
Yeah, I like other genres, but I do, as you can tell, I lean.
It's streaming on Peacock. If you want to waste an hour and a half of your life,
see it.
It feels longer. It feels like maybe 2.5.
It feels like 3 hours.
It feels like
you can even fast forward the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, the Brutalist was shorter.
Oh man, the Brutalist. Yeah, it's pretty.
That's a good movie. So
it looks nice. Has good soundtrack and good acting. Sorry. Okay, Bill, what movie did you do this week?
So I picked the 1985-86 classic Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. They play Chicago cops. It's directed by Peter Hyams, who also was the DP. It's one of the best looking movies ever made. The first draft was written by Gary DeVore, and it was he was one of the best screenwriters. He died tragically, and there is a podcast about his death. You can check it out. Yeah. He was one of the best. He wrote like Raw Deal and all these high octane 80s action movies. Peter Hyams got the script. Originally took place in New York, and he changed, and the cops were older. He changed it to Chicago, and he got Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, which nobody was excited for. And he had Jimmy Houston rewrite the script. I think it was his only foray into comedy, except for Stay Tuned, which was, not really a comedy, you could say.
Wasn't it supposed to be Newman and Hackman in the original script?
Oh wow, yeah,
that's what I read.
Wow, that would have been so different.
I want to see that movie.
I do, or so do I. Yeah, and so it involves two cops. One of them gets shot, and then they take a break, and they end up in Key West, where they fall in love with the city and the attitude, and they decide to retire, but they have to go back to Chicago for 2 weeks, and they have to do what it takes to not get shot or killed. And that, whenever it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, so their lives are even more danger, and they're taking on a pretty big cocaine drug pen played by Jimmy Smits, who was awesome. He was so great at it. I forgot how great of an actor he was. And it's streaming on Amazon Prime and MGM Plus, and I think Tubi. Should note, while the movie's really great, it has one of the worst music videos based on Michael McDonald's Sweet Freedom. And there is a weird subplot with Gregory Hines and some married woman that was weird. I was like, what's going on here? But action-packed, really funny. Chicago is great. Peter Hyams is just a natural treasure. I don't think he gets the due that he deserves. What'd you guys think?
What else has Peter done? Because I figured he was
Sudden Death, a movie we did recently on this show.
Okay.
He did Time Cop. He did 2010, the sequel to 2001.
Why isn't Jean-Claude in this movie?
Because it was before he had forced to work with him. He did End of Days.
Oh, I loved End of Days. Wow.
Yeah, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. James Cameron recommended him. Then he did Stay Tuned, this horrible high concept movie with John Ritter, Pam Dauber. Beautifully shot, but not remotely funny. Capricorn 1.
Oh yeah.
He was interviewed in the O.J. Simpson documentary for ESPN, which should really win a Pulitzer. That thing, it's 6 hours long, and it's like one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It starts with the race issues in Los Angeles and why he got let go. Pure genius. And he was interviewed. He did Star Chamber, I think, but that type of look. Yeah, he's
Star Chamber, another classic.
I think maybe he did. Let me double check. But he has his own DP as well as so I mean, it's crazy to direct and be your own DP. Outland is the movie he did, not Star Chamber. Narrow Margin also.
You said Outland?
Yeah.
With
Sean Connery.
With Sean Connery. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah,
I saw that in the theater. Yeah.
So
I'm kind of glad you brought him up because I never really knew him. His name I didn't recognize. I mean, I've seen those films, but he's not one of those guys that when I think of directors, his name pops off to me. So that's good.
He does all natural light. It's
really?
Yeah, like he doesn't use like any. So that's why there's some scenes that are so dark, like in the scenes in the bar and stuff like that.
Right. Or at Snake's house.
Yeah. And the Billy Crystal's ex-wife, her name's Darlene. I think she was in To Live and Die in LA. She was amazing. She was the best. She deserved a bigger career. She was so beautiful and so talented as well.
That's his ex-wife.
Yeah, she was. I was wondering why we didn't see more of her.
Yeah, she did. She was the bad girl in To Live and Die in LA, and Peter Hyams hired. She easily could. Yeah, she should have been she was like a young Julia Roberts. I just thought she was amazing also. But I really liked the movie. I liked it more when I was a kid, but the action scenes are great. The comedy are great. There's really crazy broad scene with these priests and stuff like that could have been without it. But to me,
I remember that. Yeah.
It's a solid movie. What'd you guys think?
Matthew, what do you think?
Well, watching it again, I didn't like it as much as I did when I originally saw it. I mean, I loved it. So going into this movie, I was going into it feeling like, oh, I remember this. I loved it. It was great. And at the time, the reason I loved it was because I thought, yeah, these two aren't these two are a weird fit, but I thought they pulled it off. And obviously I was in the 80s and it was the 80s.
Mhm.
And they really do hit the 80s vibe perfectly. I mean, that's what I love about this. It's just so 80s.
It's so
And
80s.
I love going back to the 80s. They could never. I don't know if I tried to watch the remake. Maybe I did, but I was like, you can't make this too serious.
That movie Running Scared is not a remake.
The Paul Walker
not?
movie?
Yeah, they just took the title. It's
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I saw that, I was like, oh, you can't remake that. And it was just even from the opening, one thing I noticed, and I'm glad you mentioned the director, because one of the things I noticed now that we're in sort of the drone opening stage, different from a helicopter camera shot, and different
Everyone
from
does a drone
dolly shots. So it's cool to see an 80s. I guess that was probably helicopter shots. Opening for Chicago, which would be drone now. And it's a little harsher, but still pretty cool.
You think it took so much more effort back then?
Yeah, exactly. It was like a bigger deal, So I appreciate that. It had the typical 80s montage scenes that I don't know if screenwriters just needed a break for a couple pages.
The scooter scene where they're with 7 different women each on the
Yes.
and not wearing a helmet.
Yeah, not wearing a helmet. What?
Yeah, no offense to Billy Crystal. I think Gregory Hines could probably pull some women, but Billy, the women they were putting them with were just gorgeous Playboy
I was
models.
thinking because Gregory Hines' character had the serious, I guess, married girlfriend. Is that you were saying? Somehow I missed that part. But I'm like, he's with all these different women. He's got this thing going on with this other lady. It just
and that was kind of hard for me to get to with Billy going through the divorce. Seems like he cares. Doesn't seem like he cares. And down there just loving, meeting all these women and enjoying that. But yeah, the two montages to me were just,
they were so 80s.
Easy. I could have done without, but and the music was just god awful.
You didn't like the end song when they freeze frame?
And of course, the opening of the ghetto scenes, just so unrealistic ghetto compared to what we're used to now.
And all the fake snow.
Yeah.
It's fun to see all the green leaves in the cemetery, but snow everywhere. Don't mean to be nitpicky. It looked kind of
and also just one thing that really maybe I didn't notice or I appreciated back then, because I was probably a fan of him at SNL, was him just bringing in his SNL characters. I don't know if that would have pissed off the screenwriter or not, but I mean, he's bringing in a few SNL characters throughout the movie. And I'm just like, you don't need to do that.
I think they came up with the theme as I got more shots on the set because Peter said we need something funny here. Okay. So I think they came up with that. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a movie I would have loved in the 80s. I don't know why I didn't watch it. I think maybe I didn't want to see, as you know, I'm not a mega comedy fan, so I'm like, I don't want to see an action movie with guys just being funny. But I enjoyed this. Their chemistry is great. They are two people I wish, obviously Gregory Hines is dead, but I wish I saw more of now on.
Right. Yeah.
It's such great. I miss actors like this. So they alone for the chemistry alone, I would recommend this movie.
I agree. That's probably the greatest thing about it.
Yeah.
Is how their chemistry, unlikely chemistry,
they seem
this together.
They really seem to they seem to enjoy each other working together. I think
they seemed almost like real partners in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I bought the most. And I like the fact that they weren't huge guys or muscular guys.
Yeah, the real guys.
Which is, I know a lot of police officers, and most of them are pretty big or strong guys, but some of the toughest guys are just guys you would never think is a crazy tough police officer,
Yeah.
And I felt like they kind of could have fit into that way.
I agree.
And I appreciated that.
I think plot-wise, it's so generic. I think them alone is a reason to see it. Don't go for the plot. The action's fun if you like Uzis, so that's very 80s. So it's
come on, that climax is awesome with the window washing scene. That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fun. There's you're like, oh, everyone's got an Uzi and there's tons of machine guns. That's fun. That's why I say in the 80s I would have loved it. I don't know why I missed out on it.
You're right about the Uzis. Great call. I'm a gun enthusiast. I go to the range a lot, and I just think the Uzis are just the stupidest weapon.
You were in every 80s action movie. It's like, oh,
so inaccurate. You could never shoot anyone from that far away with an Uzi.
Yeah, it's,
And the actor who plays one of the younger cops, he was in Real Genius, and he popcorn shamed me at a movie theater.
what?
Really?
Oh, for
Yeah,
making noise?
Because he was being interviewed. It was a Real Genius retrospective at the Silent Movie House, which got disbanded in Los Angeles. And he was on stage. He's like, "Look at this guy eating popcorn. He really loves his popcorn." And
Oh,
someone,
no.
Bauer's partner? Who was it?
the guy that he was in
Joey Pants?
No. He was the younger partner. It wasn't Stephen Bear. It was John Grice, maybe the guy.
Oh, the
Uncle
guy that
Rico.
was in White Lotus? The White
Yeah,
Lotus guy?
the Uncle Rico guy. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He popcorn
That's
shaming.
funny.
It was pretty funny.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. I think the plot's generic, but go for this duo because they are great. And too bad they never did.
Well, it also just made me kind of think of. It just felt like a typical studio movie. You can just feel the notes and why, and the you can just feel like the behind the scenes creative executives talking about it, and this is why it hits all the different quadrants that they wanted back then. It just feels like something that it's perfect studio sausage from the 80s.
Yeah. You can see it's
Kinda how I
really
think about
inspired
it.
by Beverly Hills Cop and all those, and before
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, this would never be like an indie movie. It was just kind of like a knockoff, but they pulled it off,
Because of them.
Yeah.
So Bill, that's a good pick.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. So this is the point where we get to pick the movie you want to win this session. You can't pick your own. So Matthew, which one do you pick? Can't pick your own though.
I'm gonna surprise you, and I'm gonna go with You're Next.
Oh, that is surprising.
Yeah, because it challenged me. It made me see things in a different way,
I appreciate
and
it.
I think I can see why people like it, and I think it holds up better. I think Running Scared. I think if someone like in their 20s saw it right now, they would just think it sucks.
Yeah.
True. They wouldn't get it. They wouldn't appreciate, my nostalgia is probably letting me let it get away with so much, or my appreciation of seeing it in the time.
Yeah. Revisiting the ones we loved is hard sometimes.
Yeah. Whereas You're Next isn't something I typically see, but I do see why people can I think it's more of a cult film, and it's deservedly so, than Running Scared is.
Yeah. This is hard for me, this pick. Honestly, I think Frailty, I think there's a lot of good there. But I think I'm going to lean towards my 15-year-old self that would have loved Running Scared, and I'm going to choose it for that duo. But like you said, if someone goes in not knowing them, they might think it totally blows. But if you want to see great actors in their prime in the 80s, see Running Scared.
So I'm going to pick Frailty because it didn't make me want to smash my head against the wall.
Because it's not Your Next.
Because it's not your next. So we all get the Employee of the Month Akeem for outstanding performance on effort.
Woo! Go
Excellent.
us!
Excellent.
Awesome.
Matthew, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Oh, well,
joining
thanks for
us.
having me, guys, because it's always so much fun to do stuff like this. It just takes me out of my worker's mind and just reminds me why I love film and why I got into it, and why I'm still in it.
Well, we hope you'll come back and join us again for another episode sometime if you guys.
Absolutely, it's a lot of fun.
We'll pick a better movie.
Hey,
Yeah.
Bill, can I
Yeah.
ask you, do you have anything to say about Grit and Script? I love that.
Oh, yes. So today's episode is brought to you by gritandscript.com. If you need screenplay coverage, submit your script to there. They'll give you great notes. And yeah, thanks.
Everyone, thank you for watching. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. And please like and subscribe, share with your friends, and comment below what your pick would have been for the week, or maybe a movie you think we should do down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Pop the popcorn, grab a Coke, and find that old VHS. We're diving deep in cheesy flicks. Yeah, we're on a vintage quest. Low reviews but high on laughs. Let's give these films a cheer. The cult classics, flops, and duds. There are topics this year. We're the Ejectables, rolling back the years. Celebrating movies that no one else cheers. From backhand juice to epic fails, we say it's all good. We're the Ejectables, yeah, we're misunderstood.